Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvushavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Good morning, class. Welcome. Um, I'm happy to see participation in general, and let's continue with some very interesting topics starting today. That ties together everything that you've seen and heard in the past, with some some ongoing discussions on dharma shastras and so on. Okay, yeah, over to you, Mahodaya.
Sarvebhyo namaskara. So just let me share the slideshow. Okay. Okay. Just to recall what we did in the previous classes, you know that there is a difference between those who qualify to study the darshanas and how they are actually organized in a way that that is called adhikari bheda, where an action-oriented seeker pursues actions that are meaningful to their lives, and a reflective seeker is whose mental disposition is more towards analysis, discrimination, and disciplining the mind, and so on and so forth. So they are qualifying for Nyaya, Sankhya, and those kind of darshanas. And the Vedanta is all about the self-knowledge, which we called a contemplative seeker. And then, if we have to relate to what known topics or what known methods of thinking that we are, that we can connect to. So Mimamsa is all about actions. It's all about uh, how to manifest your thoughts in concrete actions so that your action gives you the expected results. Nyaya is all about mastering your thinking, the thought process. And yoga is to return to the original or the sattvic state of mind where emotions and uh, anxiety and all these kinds of negative or positive, whatever be the the psychological disposition, that is, and how that needs to be balanced. And Sankhya is about understanding the cosmology or the reality itself, where they focus a lot more on the psychological existence, right? And the Vedanta is about knowing yourself, which is at the very peak and contemplative in nature. Now comes Dharma Shastras. So Dharma Shastras are all about, again, actions, but they do stand on the pillars called Nyaya and Mimamsa. As you can see, they're all connected and supported by these darshanas. Dharma Shastras have to do with law, society, governance, and all of that. Then the Nyaya, so in order to do that, you need to have the epistemology, the sources of knowledge, and the method of thinking, which we call logical reasoning, right? And it also needs the support of Mimamsa, because Mimamsa is the subject of interpretation, interpreting the scriptural text, which actually can be universally applied. Some of the methods that are developed there, that is to determine what is a vidhivakya, which is determining the injunction. Vidhivakya is the injunction. And what is an arthavada, which is explanatory phrases in the Vedic text and all of that. So they have classified the type of sentences in such ways where it actually, when it became a different subject called the hermeneutics, or the subject of interpreting the text, which is used to interpret the Dharma Shastras. And Nyaya is all about how to examine evidences and how to infer, and what is the right method of debating and all of that, which we touched upon. And they all are originating from the Vedas. And that has been the connection that is never missed. So let's start this with a case study or an example. As you can see, well, let's say these are two brothers, right? And you can make it three brothers also. That's fine. And you can see on the left hand side the person over there who happens to be a father who is dead, no more. And you do see a lot of gold coins and ornaments and all of that. And you do see the estate, you do see the house and all of that. Now, there is a debate going on. Well, debate or dispute, whichever way it is, right? And what do you think is the debate about? What do they want? And what kind of conclusion you want them to reach? All right, let's start with some kind of an interpretation, and then get into the topic. All right. So those come online. Let's. It's a very informal conversation. Let's get the mental juices flowing first, and interpret the image. It's a family dispute. Yes.
Yeah. So obvious interpretation, very, very simple, right away jump to conclusion. Knee jerk interpretation is, it may be a property dispute or a property division related discussion.
Mhm.
That's the first thing that jumps out.
Right. Totally.
Inheritance
Yes.
challenge.
The challenge, inheritance. Yes. Anyone else? Okay, let me ask this question. Anyway, so all right, agreed that they have a dispute. There was only one person, and he had three kids. They all are grown up, and he's no more. And this has to be divided. How do you divide this thing, right? Who? So they're not born equal. Meaning, the first there is a person who's the elder brother, younger brother, and the person in the middle, and all of that. They're all related. Probably they are, somehow served the father more than the others. Some are with the father, some were. One of them was not with the father. So all these combinations are there. Now, there is always some kind of a dispute, a disagreement, or animosity, and all of that. Given, let's say, the premise is there is an elder brother, younger brother, and the youngest one. How do you think the property needs to be divided so that all are happy? So let's start from ground zero. What do you do?
Yeah, I think they are referring Shastras, and elder brother should have the say in terms of how the property should be divided as a sign of respect. And since everyone is referring the
So,
Shastras,
yeah,
they may be looking
Shastra,
at that.
right? Shastra came much later, right? Now they're all evolving. So let's start from ground zero, and you do see there are texts and all of that. And let's say that each one has a text. You see that? That's
Mhm.
that's the thing. Each one has a text. They are interpreting from their own text. Um, so what do we do now? We need to solve the first problem, and you started with the Shastra. I think that's the solution, and they don't have it. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the elder brother should propose,
Mm,
and they will have to listen.
mm,
And whatever is the threshold based on minor ups and downs, if they're
mm.
okay with that, they can move forward.
So you brought an insight here. The elder brother should propose. Okay. What you're saying is there needs to be some kind of understanding in the culture. The culture gives rise to a cultural product. No, probably Shastra, whatever. That product should be used in order to divide it equally or in a way that is satisfying to all these people. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Someone has to be authority, otherwise everyone will propose their own way, and there
Okay.
will always be a conflict. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And anyone else? Go ahead. And how would you? And no, Rohit ji says there has to be some kind of a common understanding. All right. So how will you come to that common understanding? So all you know is darshanas. You do know the darshanas. So because you learned Nyaya, you learned other darshanas, Sankhya, Vaisheshika, all of that. So that ground zero is not that you know about the darshanas, you know about the Vedas, but think of yourself, transport yourself 5,000 years back, maybe.
So along with the darshanas, the unwritten societal practices also come into play, right? So
Mm.
again, I mean, things change, or under the whatever the king or the you know uh, the ruling mechanism, if it may have some rules on inheritance,
Mm.
general societal inheritance, uh, customs, right? I would say custom, just general customs would be there,
Okay.
and they may also come into play in addition to written down rules and guidelines.
Right. Okay. I think it's a wonderful starting point. And yes, you cannot just have a book first, but you need to have the practices first. And these practices would have concretized over many, many generations and they would have become customs. And now these social customs also are standardized practices. That's the starting point to come to a common understanding. Okay. Good, great point, actually. Yeah, come online and then participate. It's all because it should be easier because you're starting with ground zero. What else can we take? I mean, what's the most important thing here? When can they come to an understanding like that? Should they have some kind of a personal conviction to come to an understanding? Each one should believe that there is something called common understanding, right? So individual conduct individually. So that if that sanskara hasn't come from the father, from the generations, they will never come to an understanding. Agreed? Oh,
Yes.
yeah. So now you would see how it evolves, right? Let's see. Okay. Now, with all of that, when generations faced the conflicts more and more, more and more, more and more, and the customs had to be, have to be made standard. There needs to be some kind of a common understanding, some kind of a framework, some kind of a principle. They all have to come together, and they took the form of Dharma Shastra. And also the population grew. Now you see, this father, maybe another one, he had two wives, which was pretty common in those days, right? They say he had two wives. Now each one had two sons, or probably the second one had three sons. How will you divide the property now? So the eldest one should the first wife, her children should get more of it, or the second one should get less of it. So, I mean, should age be the only criteria, or how do we divide it? You see those. What kind of problems do you see now? Maybe they grew up in different households, and the wives were probably They had some understanding or may not be. There are many possibilities now, right? You see the complexity. Who would like to sort of line up the problems or describe the kind of issues that they might face?
In Mahabharata, if I remember, in front of Yaksha, Yudhishthir preferred to pick
Mm,
the son of uh, N-
mm,
uh, Nakul and Sahadev, and one from Kunti side, in order to give justice, regardless of whatever is the outcome of the war. So here as well, regardless who is the most deserving, it has to be split equally among the wives as 50-50, and then the kids among them can figure it out. This is one way of my thinking around this.
mm. Okay. Okay. You see, it's possible that the first wife, might have served the person less than the second one, or the vice versa. Anything, all these possibilities, the dispute may start like, I served this person, my husband, more than you, or he loved me much more than you. He loved you, right? And then how do you resolve this? You see, the problem is extremely complex. And as the families grow, and then each one has more kids, you look at the complexity of the problem. And the same family could develop enmity over time, right? And the brothers and their families probably would become some of the greatest enemies the world is going to see, right? So how do you prevent it? So this became a bigger and bigger problem, and the solution had to be really systematic. Anyone wants to see how what approach they might have taken? I mean, if you simply write books and encode rules and all of that, so can you resolve conflicts? How do you think what is the way to solve this kind of or prevent or minimize these kind of conflicts, which does not turn into violence? Ah, Pavniji, you're on mute, I think. Yeah, good.
They could have taken guidance from elders in the family or in the common society. That is
Okay.
a possibility. And even back in those days, the father may have advised them that this is how his assets would be uh, split
Yeah.
between his children, and also they used to contribute to other community thing, like a temple or something. I mean, I'm just yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, you are there. I mean, you put yourself in the scene. You are part of the story. And how will you solve the issues? And you see that from generation to generation, the problems intensify and the complexity would only increase. Yeah. What solutions that you can offer? It is going to be multiplying as the population multiplies. And that estate is going to be divided, and that probably the estate would, we don't know, maybe 1,000 acres, but no idea. That will be as the families increase or generations. That's it. There will be bloodshed, and that is how they try to end the issue, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Brute force. If you take the brute force out, which can actually be what happens with brute force is that, yes, now the person with a lot of weapons, he could get everything, but let's say the youngest son, if his kids become stronger over a period of time, maybe after 20 years or so, these now this gen the eldest son's children might have grown a little older, and the other family accumulates more and more weaponry, and whatever happened to their family, they would just take vengeance, right? So there's I mean, this conflict, this violation, I mean, this violence is only going to intensify and multiply, and violence begets violence. And that's how, where is lacking a method of a peaceful solution can result in bloodshed and extinction of the whole,
Family.
generations of peoples, right? So now that is when the dharma plays the role. Dharma is defined is dharmo dharayat. Dhr is to bear, okay, to bear, to sustain, not to go extinct, to sustain, right? And dharmo dharayati prajaha. It has to nourish and sustain the population. That is dharma. That what is the method? What is the action that is required that can bring in peaceful resolutions as well as sustain the society is the goal of Dharma Shastras and the goal of Dharma itself. And there is Dharma, there is Dharma Sutra, and there is also Dharma Shastra. And let's see. Now, in order to do that, you need to have a good method of reasoning, which is accepted by all. That is what we studied in the Nyaya Darshana, in order to interpret what is encoded as rules and regulations, injunctions, or deviations or exceptions, rules and exceptions, in order to interpret what is a rule, what is a general rule, what is a specific rule, what is the rule in another place, can that rule be applied in a different city? Now, which is specific to this city, because the customs change for this city. And what is specific to the other city, the customs might be very different for generations. So the specific rules are different. So in order to interpret whether the specific should override the general principle for a specific duration, that is all that is done by the help with the help of Mimamsa like interpretations. But this is how the darshanas influence Dharma Shastras too. Now, you do see, we learned that we have Ruta, Satya, and Dharma. Ruta is all about realizing that there is an order in this universe. The universe outside of the universe inside. There is an order. What kind of order? As soon as I get up, I do see sun. In the night, I do see moon. They all come and go, and there is a predictable pattern. And I do see that, fire burns. Fire, it's not like fire burns today and the fire is going to be cold tomorrow. No. When I hold my finger to the flame, it burns. And there is a cause and effect. This cause and effect is not visible, but experienced. The experience of that connection or the order in the world is the rhythm. And once you verbalize it and it aligns with the order of reality, who can do that? Humans can do that. So that is Satya, or the truth. And when you make sure that you sustain the ability to tell and to verbalize or to be aware of the truth, you need an action that is in conformance with the truth, and that is dharma. And that is the moral duty, because that is the closest to Satya. So dharma is to align with the Satya, Satya is to align with Rutam, and the first quality that humans should have is the moral duty. Animals are just wired. Right? Ahara, nidra, bhaya, maitunam. So they're all hardwired, and they do not have the concept of jnana. So therefore, you cannot bring them to something called moral duty or responsibility. So responsibility starts first, not rights. Responsibility is fundamental. when responsibility is broken, then you need rights. So moral duty is the first thing, and that is personal morals. That is going to be developed, and that should be acceptable to to other humans in the same environment. That is social order. So there is cosmic order, and there is truth alignment to the cosmic order, and there is conduct of the person and the society, which is sustainable, which does not result in destruction. So that becomes dharma. And the encoded rules of conduct are called Dharma Sutras, which are fully developed, they result in fully developed logical systems. And with that, you can see in this picture, there's a king and there are people, and there is a judge who interprets the Dharma Shastras, which are the products of expanding on the Dharma Sutras, which are not, they never, it becomes a fully developed legal system and institution, and Dharma Shastras are nothing but they resulted in the legal institutions. As you can see, from cosmic order to social order and social law, there is a connection to reality, which is rhythm. And this is an example of Dharma Shastra in action, where inheritance rules are in a text called Yajnavalkya Smriti. This is how Smritis, Shastras, and all these things started. In the Yajnavalkya Smriti, they have documented one of the most important, or the very first time we do see how to examine a witness. So, all right, father intended to give this much, probably 41% to this family, 30% to this family, because based on the number of kids and all of that. Probably you may call that a will or whatever, right? And maybe they owed something, and and who saw this? And that's the witness who was present there. And what if the witness lies? All of that kind of when there is a dispute, how witnesses are to be examined, whether they are eyewitnesses or they're not, and if is the eyewitness lying or not? Is he? How do you find it out? So the judge suspected of false testimony, and then there is a method of questioning, and you do see that how they examine the witnesses, and there are contradictions. How to find those contradictions and lies, and detect a false witness. All of that, those examples were also documented. And what kind of a punishment that should be given to a false witness? This is probably one of the earliest texts that we see how they arrived at the judgment. From as you can see, if you're lying, what happens is that with the person who lies already, he lost the adhikara to be told the truth, right? He is going to do the same thing to others, and the others would also learn how to lie. And if everybody is lying to everybody else, and dharma is broken. When dharma is broken, there's no satya. The moment there's no satya, it's anritam. So it's going against reality, and that results in destruction. But this is why you do see that dharma was the most important thing for them, and you see all the discussions of dharma and the subtleties of dharma, the nuances of dharma, are given examples in the form of characters called the Mahakavyas, or the epics, which resulted in Ramayana and Mahabharata. So there is, when it comes to dharma, you do see Mahabharata, Ramayana, where it talks about the moral duties of each person and societies. The very first time, you're going to see so many discussions on the roles of human beings, roles of The roles are determined by what kind of relationship they have with the society or with other humans. And you don't see a lot of discussion on the Dharma Shastras or Dharma Sutras there, but you do see on the ethical duties, because that is closest to Satya. And that is how you could, they can show examples of characters. They cover about 4 generations. And within those 4 generations, they cover the 4 stages of life too. They became epics because they show the consequences of not following dharma and following dharma. And as you can see in the Dharma Sutras, so there are Gautama Dharma Sutra, Apastamba Dharma Sutra, Bodhayana. So that is the starting point of developing a legal system. So how is Rita connected? And how are they actually mapping to what is existing in the Dharma Shastras? And you do see in the rhythm, it's just the order of the universe. And if there is no tsunami or no raining or nothing, no storms or anything, the nature is in some kind of a balance, right? And that seems to be the default state, right? And there is harmony where the relationship between the material things are also somewhat balanced, and which we call harmony. And there is also a restraint within nature itself, where it's not too much or too low, in a way that actually that can sustain our life. And to maintain that, humans need to be aware of it, which is the truth, and also truth exists, and it is that is how even rhythm, how humans have to behave in correspondence with rhythm, which reflects stability and harmony. And those qualities will appear as ethical virtues. So how is ethical virtue or on a personal conduct, how it needs to be derived? It has to be derived in order to be in compliance with Satya, right? And that is in compliance with rhythm. And Satyam meaning that it's just our intellectual or the cognitive alignment with Rita. It doesn't come by default, but it comes by an acquisition through others who live that life, who align themselves with the rhythm. It's all about perceiving and expressing reality correctly. So it's just being truthful, disciplined, and balanced. And those inner values are described in the Manusmriti, which is probably the most famous one that you've heard of. And once there is the rhythm and the Satya alignments are proper, the ethical expression of the same in conduct is the Dharma. And Dharma is broadly, it's classified as Samanya and Vishesha. Here you can see the Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. Samanya means universal. Vishesha means specific. Samanya it cuts across time and space. There's no one saying, in this generation 1 needs to be truthful and generation 2 need not be truthful. No, you have to be truthful throughout. So you can't lie in one place and then be truthful in the other. So this general principle is the Samanya. And the Vishesha is very role specific. Okay. So Samanya applies to all humans, whereas Vishesha is for particular person or societies executing on specific roles. And the basis of Samanya Dharma is ethical virtues. How to have what are the basic qualities that a human being should have, right? And the special duties of function and responsibilities will come under Vishesha Dharma. And the internal moral discipline is very different from the external social obligation that we see. How we behave at home, we can't behave the same way at a bank. And when it comes to stability, It is universal in nature and constant. It doesn't change for time and place, whereas Vishesha Dharma is contextual and variable. Right? What you would do as a son, you wouldn't be doing the same thing as a father. So the context is different. And Samanya Dharma is the moral foundation of society, whereas Vishesha Dharma is for maintenance of social order, which means the Vishesha Dharma can change from generation to generation. It can change from place to place. It can change from context to context. But they're all, that hierarchy of Vishesha Dharma is also very well documented. And when it, how do they relate to Dharma? How does Samanya Dharma relate? It is the true core principles, which are 10 of them. And Vishesha Dharma is all about practical application of Dharma, which is very transitory in nature. And the scriptural source for Samanya Dharma, we do see that for the first time in Manusmriti, 10 of them. And when it comes to Vishesha Dharma, there are innumerable texts. For example, P.V. Kane, Panduranga Vaman Kane, who wrote this magnum opus, one of the greatest works, is the history of Dharma Shastra. It's about 6,000 pages in 6 volumes. And he was also awarded Bharat Ratna. It's a work of, it spans, probably he took around 50 to 58 years to compose that work. He studied 76 Dharma Shastras, or the constitutions of India, and 18 of them, which he mentions, organizes it very well. So constitution is not new for the land because it has a history of Dharma Shastras. And they are, because the time and place changed and the generations changed, the social customs changed. So therefore, there are many, many Dharma Shastras too. The Smritis and those texts. And the virtues, truthfulness, forgiveness, and self-control. They were required at the time of Treta Yuga and also now. That doesn't change. Whereas the duty of a king, what a king did 1,000 years back, the same thing cannot be done by a king now. What a king did 4 years back, cannot be done by the same king because the situations would have changed. So you see that the Vishesha Dharma keeps changing. What is right for a warrior is not right for a teacher. What's right for a teacher is not right for a warrior, because they're so contextual, and they're all, duties are very, very different. And go ahead, please.
Um, so is there a case for saying that because the time and place have changed, the Vishesha Dharma is going to affect how you view the Samanya Dharma?
Yeah, we'll come to that thing. It's so currently what is happening is, you see if flow. If you're observing the flow of the presentation, we had an example. Now we are moving towards some kind of abstraction. We'll come back now. Yeah. So you do see that we're going to be showing how Rama and Rama's view of Vishesha Dharma and what happened. So that's probably the most controversial one. And would you like to see that example?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So how Rama functions and how Krishna functions and all of that. Okay. So duty of a king, warrior, and teacher. So Saman is all about. Yes, Modi. Yuga dharmas. Yuga dharmas. Yes, because the Dharma Shastras are different for each yugas. For example, uh, you know, it is said that Manu Dharma Shastra was applicable to Treta Yuga, Shankhalikita Smriti was to Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga should be, what is applicable to Kali Yuga is Parashara Smriti, is how it is said. Okay. For example, the widow remarriage wasn't there in Manusmriti, but Parashara Smriti allows it. Right? So, which is more applicable now. And even prior to that, widow remarriages actually happened. We do have certain examples like that. So there's some, from time to time, it kept changing. So speaking truth is Samanya Dharma, and Rama was Dasharatha promised to the world that Rama would be the king the very next day, and he's coming back, and then changes his word and then says that Rama is not going to be the king, and he accepts it. Why does he accept it when he's to be, coronated as a king? Because he had to follow the dharma of a son. But let's see why. I mean, are there conflicts and confusions? Yes. Let's see. They can be resolved. There are, 10 Samanya Dharmas. It is called in the Manu Dharma Shastra. We see Dhitik Shama Damosteyam Shaucham Indriya Nigraha Dhi Vidya Satyamakrodho Tashakam Dharma Lakshanam. Dhriti, Kshama, Dama, Asteya, Shaucha, Indriya Nigraha, Dhi, Vidya, Satya, and Akrodha. These 10 are to be there for all human beings. You can never override the Samanya Dharma. Right? The moment you lose it, you see that who does not want it all across the world. Right? Somebody ping?
Yeah, there is one question.
Yeah.
When there is a conflict among the various roles and responsibilities, how to set the precedence around which dharma to follow and which not to follow? Because sometimes it is contradictory as well. So even in the case of Rama and Krishna, I believe there must be various roles they would be playing. And in some cases, Rama might have promised mom that, okay, I will be staying, or mom is giving a promise that you have to stay because your mom is saying, but he has to follow the duty of a king's order and all that. So what is the precedence order, and how do we determine which one is okay to break and which one is not?
You're 3 slides ahead of questions are all right. Correct. The sense of direction is perfect. Yeah, we'll come back. What to override, what not to override. What is the order, right? We'll study it like a flow chart. Okay. Yes, Maria. Wonderful questions. Actually, I really love that thing. It's amazing. But come back on that. Okay.
Sure.
You see that the cosmic in the Rita, we saw that there is stability. In the nature, there is stability. Yes or no? I mean, there's no storm happening now. I mean, there's no rain suddenly. So there's some kind of stability, right? So that awareness of the order, we call it Satya. And you see that Dhriti is related to that. Isn't that wonderful? Dhriti are the steadfastness, stability of mind, the stability of your character. That insightful connection, that is wonderful. You see that thing? And then harmony. Harmony is about relationship, right? Whenever I say harmony, relationship is implied. You do see that there is harmony in nature. Now, as soon as the sun is out in the sky, you do see birds chirping, and you see that beautiful sound, and animals. And as soon as the sun goes down, the cows are coming back. There's that kind of a relationship. It's all somehow they all work together so beautifully. So similar to human beings, if there is some understanding or putting ourselves in their shoes, as the saying goes, that empathetic understanding is key to understanding other human beings, so that in order to avoid problems, if you can do that, if you can take multiple perspectives and perspective of the other person, whether they are right or wrong, it doesn't matter. If you take the perspective, doesn't, just because you can see it from their perspective doesn't make you evil. The action if you become empathetic to the extent that you want to follow that person, yeah, that's a problem. And kshama, the forgiveness, the ability to move on, forgiving not just the other person, forgiving oneself is also important, because what I did today should not bother me tomorrow. So the ability to forgive oneself and others, restraint, that self-discipline is the dhamma. Okay, the dhamma and the kshama, the forgiveness and the self-control. Dhamma is the word dhammayati iti. So that self-control is at the very core. Right? It's at the very, very core of all practices. And the respect for order. The order is the recognition of one's responsibility and others' rights, which is asteya. Steya. And stenaha meaning he's a thief. Steyam is stealing. Asteyam is non-stealing. I need something. I need a laptop. If I go and then grab a laptop without the permission of the other person, it becomes universally preferable behavior for others. My son would see the same thing, and yes, I go and then steal that laptop, and it's amazing. I'm benefiting, but the conveyed information is that somebody else could steal it from me. So I steal the laptop, in about 10 minutes, the same laptop is stolen by the person, and we keep stealing from each other without taking the permission, right? If that keeps happening, it's unproductive, and I can't use that laptop. At some point there will be a conflict and then violence. So stealing, so if you take the position that stealing is a good thing, then you are saying that stealing from you is also a good thing, and that is not sustainable, therefore not dharma. Purity of structure, inner and outer clarity, which is shaucha. Right? And shaucha is not only purity for rituals, but purity of conduct as well. And balance of forces are the disciplined perception, what to see, what not to see, because everything is ahara. Even if you see how to, pancha indriyas, they have their outwardly, they keep getting the information, but once they come inside, how do you control the mind? It's the control of the senses, all 5 plus 1, right? The panchendriyas and also mana, and the wisdom of reality. So truth exists in terms of awareness and sentences, vakyas. So how do you understand? You need dhi. Dhi are the viveka, which is called discernment. Not just the yukti, but the viveka. The tradition has clearly demonstrated that intelligence is of a lower, buddhi has two components. One is intelligence and discernment. So discernment is to be achieved, what to do, what not to do, rather than doing something bad efficiently, which also requires yukti. The application knowledge is called the yukti. It's not just the yukti, but you need the viveka, the dhi, and pursuit of knowledge, so which is vidya. And this vidya is both laukika and paramarthika, and that is all about learning reality. Alignment with truth is the speech. As you could see, Satya is repeated again and again as one of the 10 most fundamental dharma, the universal dharma. Then the harmony of mind, which is the freedom from destructive emotion. So they did not say irsha, they simply say akrodha, which is the absence of anger or the ability to control anger. This is how they all map to rhythm. Isn't that is an insightful connection, and how many people can appreciate it? And how is it aligned to rhythm? Is that something exciting? Something very insightful? What do you think? or is it, oh, okay, they observed nature, and they did see that an analogous quality in humans and made that a fundamental one. It's how it aligns with the rhythm, right? Okay. So how many people worked on it? There is legal dharma. There is early dharma traditions who Gautama, Apastamba, Vasishtha, Shankha, Likita, they all worked on the early dharmic traditions in the form of sutras, dharma sutras. And then came, what about the ethics? Atri, Yama, Daksha, Vishnu, Parashara, they all worked in the ethical or the religious dharmic side, because even the ritual is considered dharma. And ethics are the qualities that one should have. There are texts on that thing. And dharmic, the sutras exist, and the earliest one that we see is Gautama Sutra, in the Apastamba. And then comes core jurisprudence, how the society should conduct. That is where we see Manu, Yajnavalkya, Parashara, and Harita, Angirasa, Atri, and all of these people writing texts on it. And of course, you do see Ushana or Shukra, or even Ushana, they are referred to for legal dharma, that is the institutionalized conduct for the society. So the texts are plenty, and history of Dharma Shastra is a great reference for it. So Vishesha Dharma, as we said, it's all role-specific duties and highly contextual. They are categorized into what is the dharma of transmission of knowledge, that is Shikshana Sansthanas or Gurukulas and things like that. And what is the role of dharma for the judges and for the Nyayadishas? And that is also Vishesha Dharma. Even the Varnashrama. Okay. Varnashrama is a Samanya or Vishesha? What do you think? Do you see Kshatriyas? They're not in plenty, right? They do exist, but not as you don't have that kind of a clarity today. Right? They do, but even the Varnashrama it keeps changing. But even though fundamentally it may exist, but concretely it's a little difficult these days, because what is required of a Brahmin, what is required of a Brahman? But you do see that among the Shudra, but you do see the Shudratva in a Brahmin. So that clarity is not there today. But even though the categories and the proclivity or the propensity or the ability to function as one of the Varnas, it does exist. And that is pretty, it's all pervasive. You could see it, but not very, in a very concrete or a specific way. Yes, Maudya?
Also, other than Varnas, it should also be role specific for different ashramas like Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa, right? For example, right? I would think that.
Yeah.
And the other point, just a previous point I wanted to make is the various items that you mentioned. There's a good deal of overlap with Ashtanga Yoga.
Yeah. Okay. So how is that related to Ashtanga Yoga?
For example, Yama Niyamas, they
Okay.
have.
Yes.
Those
They all come under ethical dharma.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Personal and ethical dharma. Totally. And the standardized dharma is what you would expect of a person, you would expect of a society also, and that becomes legal dharma. And as you can see in the Vishesha dharmas, interestingly, do you see some kind of a hierarchy? What about householder's dharma? He's taking care of the family, right? What about a king's dharma, Raja dharma? And what happens when there is a conflict? Should family take priority over Rajadharma, or Rajadharma should take priority over family? Where is the impact? Is the impact more? What is the impact of harm? Let's say family man goes wrong versus king goes wrong. Which one has which specific action would destroy societies faster?
Rajadharma, for sure.
So that's how you decide, right? That's how you decide which one, if there is a hierarchy or not, using nyaya, right? And what happens when a teacher goes wrong versus a judge going wrong? Which, let's say, the same person is playing two roles. He was a teacher and he is a judge today. Which role, when he, let's say, he teaches wrong, he teaches the topic wrongly to students versus he gives a wrong judgment. Which one has a higher impact?
Teacher for sure has a bad
Which one?
impact. Teacher, because if let's say the topic is of importance and the students are learning in a wrong way, then
Mhm.
eventually it will have a further bad impact on the society. It is
Yeah.
contextual, but
It is
we,
absolutely contextual. And if the judge gives the wrong judgment, let's say the law is wrong, which one has? No, think of judges' dharma as not as pronouncements of a specific judge, but more of a lawmaker, right? Even in that case, you know, you're right. The teaching wrongly over a long, about 10, 15 years from today, he'll produce extremely uh, bad members of the society. So contextually, judge can also do wrong things. Uh, there are specific ways where you see which one is higher priority, okay, and it is considered the responsibility of a judge is a lot more in general because of the immediate impacts. Okay, let's see. And the specific duties and responsibilities based on one's role in society is the Vishesha Dharma. We talked about Samanya and we talked about Vishesha. So now coming to your questions. So some of the controversial topics. What do you think is the most controversial subject in Ramayana? Go ahead. I want to see all of you on screen debating what is right and what's wrong. What's the most controversial topic in Ramayana?
I think what I have heard where
Mhm.
people debate, and probably we know some answers as well as a counter answer in bits and pieces, is the call of Rama
Mhm.
to leave Sita when she was pregnant.
Mhm.
Is something not very well understood from the lens of humanity
Right.
versus his role as a king,
Wonderful.
and if that was the right outcome we should be expecting from Rama's duty.
What about killing Wali while hiding behind a tree?
Yeah, I think that was also a subject of controversy where like killing someone from the back without giving the proper opportunity is
Yeah.
not ethical for a Kshatriya.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. You see,
So, but
and
maybe, yeah,
Shivakami Mahodaya is a Temple of Fine Arts. Okay, I think so. Yeah, and she had an opinion. Sita's abandonment. Okay, yeah. Sita was pregnant. Which husband would leave a husband? Which husband would leave a pregnant wife? Especially she's fully pregnant, and he just leaves her. Where? In a forest. And does he come? He doesn't. He sends Lakshmana. He leaves them. Did they go and reach and talk to Valmiki or somebody to take care of her? No. How is that? Isn't that controversial? Totally right. Will you ever get an answer for that thing? Okay, yes, there are. But when Valmiki writes, he writes as it is. Iti ha asa itihasa. This is what happened. This is how it happened. He's unbiased when he writes about Rama's great qualities, and that too, right? That is how that's an author, and he saw it as it is. He's a darshanika as well, and he's called Maryada Purushottama, one who follows dharma, the T. And you see in one of the examples where it is who broke the word actually. Does Rama break the word ever? Dasharatha, did he break the word? Did he break the word to Kaikeyi? Yes or no?
Sorry, didn't get the question. Ji. Break the word. Which one?
Meaning, Kaikeyi was promised. Did he break the promise? Word is the promise. Yeah. Did he break promise that was made to Kaikeyi?
No.
No.
Okay. No?
He did break the word to
Yes.
his people, right? Because he
Did
Rama
he?
was made
Yeah.
crown prince before he accepted the word of Kaikai, right?
Yes. And had he told Kaikeyi, I mean, Kaikeyi had helped Dasharatha, right? And he had said that and she was young, pretty young, and then there was a political alliance. He married her, and then said that your son is going to be the king. And Rama was going to be coronated as the king. Did he tell Kaikeyi about Ram becoming the king? Did he update her?
I thought, I mean, my reading of it was that he did. It was only after the intervention of her maid, right, that she changed her mind about Rama being king and Bharata had to replace Rama.
Well, the Valmiki Ramayana, what does it say? We just have to go by one text, right? Yes, I mean, you can interpret probably. And in those days, there was no easier communication. So somebody has to come and inform directly. Yes, you can't interpret from a distance.
Yeah, the Kekai's made actually. I forgot the name.
Mantra, right?
Mantra informed Kekai that Rama is getting coronated, and that is when I think Kekai talked with Dashratha.
Yeah, you're the most beloved wife. You married an older man on a promise. Okay, he was pretty old compared to her. She was the youngest one. And well, Bharata was he in any way, shape or form, was he not going to be the king? Look at his qualities, even in Ramayana. He was a great man. See, he was qualifying, right? But he was not made the king. He selected Rama. And the people chose Rama. Of course, he approves it and he proposes it, and people chose. They said yes. And he does not inform Kaikeyi. So not only he broke the promise, but he also concealed an information thing. Probably he thought that it would upset Kaikeyi. Yeah, Kaikeyi. Okay, Mahodaya, Chandra Mahodaya.
The other one, based on what I understand from from somebody narrating Valmiki Ramayana, is there is a scenario which I find it, again, I don't think it straddles the dharma part of it, but what I found interesting is Rama's equanimity, or his ability to handle the Vanavasa order and going, that he did very well, or he did not get emotional. But when Sita was kidnapped, he got very emotional and kind of lost his faculties, or lost his courage for a while. So there is also that dual personality that comes up. Right?
Yeah. And you see this, Rama is in the entire Ramayana, you do see that he was following the Vishesha Dharma. Okay, and in every role, he's going to execute on responsibilities for each role. So at that moment, in that role, it's the highest duty. And you do see those examples. For example, as a son, and he was announced that he was going to be the king. And the very next day, he had his coronation. And the evening, he comes to know, the previous day, he comes to know that he was not going to be the king. And not only that, he was told to go for exile, right, by his own father. Did he say a word against it? And Dasharatha was a king, and the king say so. King changed his mind. He followed the Raja Dharma, and he obeyed it as a son as well. So when he was a son, he was obedient to his father. And when he was a prince or a king, did he follow the duties of a prince, that is protection of his subjects wherever he lived? When he went to forest, was he functioning as a kshatriya? He took his weapons, right?
Yeah, he was not a prince then. He was functioning as a Kshatriya.
He was functioning as a kshatriya, right? And as a son also, he does his duties. As soon as Bharata comes to inform him, and Lakshmana is thinking that probably Bharata has come for a war or whatever, right? And he says, well, let's talk to Bharata. And Bharata comes, and then first thing he says, father is no more. And Rama, without saying anything, he asks Lakshmana to prepare for Shraddha. So he was very, very ritualistic in the sense of an action has to be done now, and that is first. Conviction first, action first, feelings later. You're that kind of a person. And dharma is this. That's why he's called Maryada Purushottama. And as a warrior, when he was a warrior, he was not a son. When he was a son, he was not a warrior, right? And as a protector of society, which is Rajadharma. So each role carried its own Vishesha Dharma. And you do see that thing in the decision, when it comes to decision making. I don't know whether it's even visible. Maybe, let's see, how do I expand it? Okay, I made it, I can't, it looks like reached the limit, sorry. Yeah, when it comes to dharma, how does he resolve the conflict? It's Rama's dharma decision tree, right? When it comes to resolving the conflict in a given situation, he would see what is Samanya Dharma and what is Vishesha Dharma. And let's say there is an ethical situation. He would see the universal virtues, such as all the 10 Samanya Dharmas. And does this situation require abandoning any of those virtues? Now, if yes, it is going to be adharma, and he would reject that action, right? And did he forgive his father and Kaikeyi? He did, right? You do see that he accepted exile and forgave whatever happened to him. You do see that thing, at least when it comes to to that ethical situation. He followed the dharma of a son and did not breed vengeance or come to a state where, oh my God, I became a victim. A victim, that victimhood mentality was never there for him, even though he was exiled. And he was identifying the role of a king, a son, a warrior, husband, and a protector. So now, whenever it resulted in a conflict, sorry, I don't know why this is appearing. I just don't. Yeah. When he identified the role, right, and with the most controversial one, which role protects the larger social order? we saw an example between the role of a family man versus the role of a Raja. Which one is of higher priority? Why do people critique him? For abandoning wife, right?
Yes.
Uh, for a conflict of duties. Which role protects the larger social order? Uh,
King's,
if say it again.
yeah, king's role for sure over family.
Right, king's role is more, right? And he simply chooses the higher dharma, that is to maintain the public order, because he wants to set an example. His father had broken a promise, and it resulted in lots of conflicts and violence or whatever, right? One thing led to another. And public order, when it comes to maintaining the public order, which is a form of it probably could be loosely called social rhythm, right? The order, the social order, and versus personal duty, right? And public order was more important than personal duty when necessary. That is when he sent Sita away. So duty as a ruler. When a king sends a subject away, does he come? Does he accompany them, and then develop that kind of attachment? See, he had to be very detached at that point. The moment he decided, he sent Lakshmana to do that work for him, dirty work for him, right? He did that. And did he suffer because of that? He had Swarna Sita for all his. The moment in dharmic traditions, the moment a person loses his wife, he loses the right to conduct any yaga, yajna, havana, whatever, right? Even the puja vidhis and all of that. He is not a vidhura. The moment his son loses wife, he loses all kinds of rights for the dharmic rituals. And as a king, Rama still had to perform. So what he did was he had Swarna Sita. And was he happy leaving Sita? No. He took that pain. So even when there is suffering, personal pain, he chose the higher order Vishesha Dharma specific to that role. That is where you see the conflict. And probably in today's morals and those frameworks, that appears as like, oh my God, what he did. And almost even to this day, people critique, right? And the nuances of these, the Vishesha Dharma conflicts actually resulted in the Kavyas. You do see plenty of them. When it comes to Samanya, Vishesha, and Apad Dharma in Ramayana, Mahabharata, and also many, many great stories. And for example, Yushtira. Yeah, Rohitji, yes.
Yeah, on this specific aspect, maybe because of my limited knowledge, I don't know much. But one question that crosses my mind is, did Rama try to give enough opportunity to Sita as well to prove her innocence in front of the public? Or Rama just took the stand single-handedly, thinking that this is how the king's duty would look like? While I agree, the king's duty is far more important as compared to an household duty. But having an dharma to an individual, regardless whether she is the wife or even a person in the praja, it's also important as well. And if we are kind of sentencing something for which the person hasn't committed the crime, probably that is not suitable as the part of role of a raja as well. So there is a conflict not from a household perspective, but a conflict in terms of doing the right thing at the first place, and making sure that everyone is aware how the decision has been made, and giving enough opportunity even for the culprit as well to prove in front of the entire sabha. That's something I always feel I don't know the answer much.
Yeah. So it's a Ramayana is a topic that can take probably 2-3 sessions on their own. Yes, there will be a lot of questions and debates, in that space. Probably the best thing is to get the Ramayana, look at each shloka, and then interpret Valmiki Ramayana. If it happens, has it been painful? It's an extremely painful episode. Yes, it is pretty painful, and that is where that Karuna Rasa, where you do see that both are actually, who is suffering the most? Let's ask that question, right? Who suffers the most in that situation?
Rama, I guess, because he loves more than anyone else.
Yes, and he took that pain, yeah, for what he considered the highest Vishesha Dharma at that point. So that is all there is to it. Valmiki is not defending anything. He simply says what actually happened. And did Lakshmana agree with Rama's decision? No.
Yeah, so Srinidhi, from where we should get such answers? Like we cannot just Google it out because the answers are not good, and we don't know Sanskritam as well in a way which we can just pick the Valmiki Ramayana and read ourselves. So I believe such kind of uh, misunderstandings or questions we want to not just satisfy ourselves but even our near and dear ones as well. For example, our kids. What do you think is the right way to get an answer for this?
I don't think the kid is going straight there. It is where because they don't have the concept of all Samanya.
The society will take them because middle school, high school kids, the society will take them by asking this question, and if they don't know the answer, I can't have a measurable way to tell them, oh, read this book.
Yes. Let's see. Without the precedence of Rajadharma being set as the highest dharma, we wouldn't even be asked. We wouldn't have laws, moral codes, and things like that. Even to this day, we can question Rama. It's not out of questions. It's not. Yes, we do. And Valmiki wanted it that way, probably. Now, he could have simply masked it off and saying, "Oh, he never did anything like that." No, he just wrote what actually happened. Yes, people, the Uttara Ramayana, there are debates as to whether it is not Valmiki Ramayana. Let's not take, because Valmiki Ramayana by the critical edition, in that sense, Uttara Ramayana is not there. Okay, but you do see that there is she entering fire and then Pravesha and then coming back, and it's all there, right? Even that episode is very controversial. But even in Mahabharata, did Yudhishthira, did he say that as a Raja Dharma, he was not supposed to lie, correct? He lied. Ashwathamo hata kunjaraha. So Ashwathamo hata kunjaraha. Was a kunjaraha meaning it's a hasti or an elephant, and he said it, and everybody else, all the noise was so much that that voice, the last word was hidden, and Drona gave up his arms, and then they killed him, right? So now, did Yudhishthira lie? And he was considered Dharmaja, the son of Dharma, right? And he lied, and then it is said that his Ratha, the chariot, came down because of that. Oh, it's a white lie or whatever, right, you call it. But here you see that had he not said it, the war would have continued and more people would have died. That was the reason. Public order, the order, dharmo dharayati prajaha. Even if you had to say that lie to protect and to contain violence, and that was needed at the time, it's always contextual. The Vishesha Dharma is analyzed and ranked within the context of time and place and relationships to the public order. So yes, there are controversies. There are the nuances of Dharma. If you have to get those questions, especially the moral conflicts, epics, and I don't think you would get that kind of an epic written on moral conflicts anywhere else. Yes, Modi, Chandra Modi. Yeah.
Again, we are running out of time, but maybe it's for next time. There is cost of inaction also, right? You take action based on your dharma, based on the context, based on the guidelines,
Mhm.
but there is a cost of inaction, especially we see that plenty in Mahabharata, where
Silence, yeah.
silence led to lot of during the dice game,
Correct.
and subsequently many of the silence from many luminaries led to a lot of things. Maybe we should.
See,
That's
they all
probably
had,
a different topic. Yeah.
they were all knowledgeable about dharma. They all, they had executed on dharma. They were all considered. I mean, in fact, Bhishma was considered, you know, an expert on dharma shastras, right? And so was there were so many luminaries sitting there, and they all kept quiet. So that what actually was needed was viveka and not just the yukti. They probably, if you ask a question on how to apply dharma shastra, they would probably tell you, no, without a blink of an eye. They can tell you about the causes, the effect, the consequences of not following the dharma, and everybody was capable there. But when that moment came, when Draupadi was being abused and insulted, they never raised their voice, and that silence was not viveka. They all had yukti, but not viveka, the discernment of when to be silent and when not to be silent was missing. That resulted, that inaction, that silence when justice was needed, when that was not implemented, it resulted in massive violence. Right? That was adharma. And they see, you see those, the kavya is to show the cause and effect, the choices and consequences, and especially those moral conflicts. In those situations, without the epics, you wouldn't know what the context was. And that is how you, if you want to understand dharma, how it is to be implemented versus what actually happened, those discussions are available in the epics Ramayana and Mahabharata. All right, with that thing, I would like to end the session.
Okay, let's finish with the closing prarthana Mudya. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all very much for the wonderful, lively discussion today. We'll continue this thread for several more sessions to come. Dhanyavadaha. Have a great weekend.